What's going on, guys? This is Paul Whitehorn with Dent Repair USA, and today we're talking about pressure sensors and paintless dent repair. First, let's start with a history of automotive sensors. The first patent for an airbag system in the US was issued by J.W. Retract on August 18, 1953. It wasn't until 1970 when the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration tried to make laws surrounding restraints and airbags. There were several messy court battles spanning almost 2 decades between the Nixon and Reagan administration, which prevented airbag safety laws. It wasn't until 1995 that Congress finally passed a bill requiring airbags. The very first side impact pressure sensors was Volvo's 1995 850 model. BMW was the first to design an inflatable head protection system in 1998, which is still standard in all 5 and 7 series. Today, these sensors are largely only found in higher-end German manufacturer vehicles like E-Class and S-Class Mercedes, but they're also found in many Chrysler vehicles manufactured in Germany. According to a leading expert on the side collision pressure sensors, Adrian Hall paraphrased, "It's also been proven that they are largely useless and don't save lives. It's a sales tool to make passengers feel safer than they are." He describes all of this in his paper Dispelling the Misconceptions About Side Impact Protection in an SAE paper number 950879, which is still considered the standard. The reason being is it's largely due to the nature of the type of impacts that you're going to be getting from a side collision. The amount of force required to actually deploy the airbag goes hand in hand with the metal being ripped, which is going to release that pressure right when it needs to be there. And also the survivability of impacts at that speed are extremely rare. And when they do occur, it's not attributed to a small cushion. Why is it important for paintless dent repair and paintless dent repair technicians to understand this? So the vast majority of automotive sensors for accidents are dedicated to frontal collisions. This is the most common type of crash a vehicle is likely to encounter. However, as it relates to paintless dent repair, the newer side impact sensors are extremely relevant. Since if a paintless dent repair technician doesn't understand some of these sensors, it can increase the time or prevent a side airbag deployment entirely. Understanding automotive sensors and how they relate to paintless dent repair can mean the difference between major injury and a minor injury in the event of a collision. Admittedly, many of these features that today's vehicles have redundancies, and they only help in very specific situations. Regardless, if you need them and they fail, it could be because corners were cut in the paintless dent repair. It's what you need to know as a consumer or a technician today to ensure that the vehicle that you have or that you're working on will be safe when dealing with side impacts. First, we need to identify these rare chambers. The telltale signs of a panel with this feature, you can identify it easily by taking the interior door panel apart, and once the door's interior panel is off, you'll see a blocked out cavity or a metal plate instead of a typical breakaway fabric with that black sealant that we all love getting on our hands. In all vehicles except for the Chryslers, it's pop riveted in. This cavity is pressurized, and if you drill a hole into it, you can prevent it from deploying the side airbags in the event of an accident. You do not need to be concerned if you're doing a repair through a window or if you do drill a hole near the window side. Avoid drilling into pressure chambers. Unlike front-end collisions, they have significantly more time to respond to a crash. Side impact response time must happen extremely fast, since the crushable space between the damage from the outside and the occupant is extremely small. The reaction time for the sensors must be within 3 to 5 milliseconds, and deployment of airbags must happen within 7 to 15 milliseconds. Although these airbags have virtually no improvement for occupant safety or survivability for T collision, and the panel at 35 miles per hour usually ruptures on impact to begin with, it's still important that we leave these vehicles the way that we found. Invest in a pneumatic pop rivet gun and drill the rivets out and simply replace them and the sealant. It should be noted that the battery needs to be disengaged from the sensor for 1 hour before messing with it. There have been cases where airbags have deployed just from drilling into the pressure cavity to remove the pop rivets. Charge accordingly. To do these panels correctly, you should be charging triple your normal rates at a minimum. I currently charge $300 for the entire process, not including the dent repair itself. If you must drill, keep the atmospheric pressure. The cavity itself is not affected on the front side of the panel. That is, anything in front of the glass is not within the chamber, and if you must drill, this is where it should happen. Furthermore, if you must drill into a chamber, make sure that you do not use a typical plug. That plug will do nothing for the pressure chamber, even if it's cavity waxed and glued. Silicone Extreme tape is a permanent leak sealant that will keep the chamber at a safe pressure if struck. It will maintain the pressure change threshold of 34 MB or about 3 to 4 atmospheric pressure. It may not look as pretty, but it will get the job done. In conclusion, even though side impact pressure chambers are still in their infancy and they do not save lives for most collisions, we should practice maintaining the proper pressure within the chamber. Many automotive manufacturers will continue to use them as a selling feature for their vehicles. Know and understand this sensor, how to identify it, and how to pop rivet them out and on.